How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Devin the Bear. Let's just get right into it. I want to introduce our guests one more time. Back again with Caleb.
Howdy ho. How's it going? Guess who's back without pants?
And there's Zach right there.
A reference to Butt Naked Wednesdays.
Except for this is just pantsless Sunday. I still have my shirt on like Winnie the Pooh.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
So you're just shirt cocking it or what?
Yep.
Yeah, just steady shirt cocking it. There you go. Cool. And so at least you covered up a little bit, right?
You're welcome.
And so it looks like you sat in gum, but it's whatever. And so just go and get right to it. This past weekend's card was UFC Fight Night, Vanden versus Cody Garbrandt. And so there were some good things out on the prelims. We saw Chris Barnett make his UFC debut. If you kind of keep up with the original circuit or anything like internet-related MMA-wise on YouTube, you've probably seen him. He's the 5'9", 265-pound man who jumps around like he's in a fucking kung fu movie. So
that's a big man to be jumping around.
Dude,
like that.
yeah. Well, you're 5'9", right?
I'm 5'11".
5'11",
but
so.
I don't weigh near as much.
So he's just a big boy. Like he went in there, he fought Ben Rothwell, and we hadn't seen Big Ben in the win column in a little while, and he was recently suspended by USADA, so he went in there and he's trying to pick up this win against him. And the first round we saw Chris Barnett kind of do what he does. He goes in there, he's very quick punches, he throws a lot of, like, quick barrages, and then he also throws leg kicks. You really don't see heavyweights throw very many leg kicks, but he was pretty active with them. But I mean, before like 3-minute mark of that first round, they were both gassed.
Yeah, honestly, for Chris Barnett to come in and have to fight Ben Rothwell, that's a very tall order.
Yeah,
and Ben Rothwell, just because he is a giant man, and for a heavyweight fighter, he is very solid. I wouldn't say he's really extraordinary in anywhere in the fight.
No.
But he's very good at what he does, which is standing up and hitting you hard. So he's kind of a natural heavyweight in that aspect. But Chris Barnett just couldn't get in on him. He spent the whole fight, all of his energy he expelled trying to get in on Ben Rothwell, and he just couldn't do it. And Ben Rothwell's very used to being able to do that to guys, so it was no hard task for him to beat up on a guy from the outside until he could get the finish in the second round.
So to recap from the last episode, for anybody who's forgotten that I don't keep up with any of this.
Right.
This is all Greek to me. I love it, but I just don't go out of my way to watch it.
Right.
This fight happened this weekend.
Yeah.
Between these two gentlemen.
Yep.
This is exactly what I was talking about last time. Was just big, meaty men just pummeling each other, and it brings fun to the sport. Those are big boys right there.
And the thing is too, though, is, you know, like you take it, like we talk about, like Chris Barnett's only 5'9", and I mean, no matter how much conditioning he does, he's still carrying around that weight at that size, and he's trying to exert, like, cause I'm sure he hits hard, but it's probably difficult to hit somebody who's like almost a whole foot taller than you to go up and try to punch them as hard as you can. You're kicking him in the leg, and so it's just and Ben Rothwell just kind of ate everything he threw. He looked tired as well, though. He looked pretty out of it, but he's a big dude. He just was able to put his size on him and just wear him down, just walk him down the whole time. And I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of what we expected, you know, with a Big Ben fight.
Some of these little moments with them that I'm watching are kind of sloppy.
Yeah,
almost kind of like grade school type.
That's how you know you're watching a heavyweight fight that is outside of the top 5.
Yeah,
because
this is the norm.
Yeah, heavyweight fights.
Holy
kind
moly,
of
he is a lot bigger than him.
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
You're good.
That I'm finally seeing them upright,
standing next to each
other.
Yeah,
that's a big guy.
But heavyweight fights, the longer they go on, the sloppier they get. Typically, they're notorious for either being wildly exciting or incredibly boring.
Like you can see, this man is already winded. Look, like those swings right there.
Yeah,
you know that's all he's got left in the tank.
Yeah, and again, Ben Rothwell's very good. He's been doing this a long time, so he knows I'll just wait for my chance because it'll be there. And he did, and he ended up getting the submission win. Mm-hmm. It's a rare submission. They called it it's a go-go type submission.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. But
what's the difference between that?
It doesn't matter. Essentially,
okay.
What the deal is you look at Chris Barnett, and the reason he tapped is just because he couldn't breathe too much to begin with. He was already so exhausted from the fight that the second someone puts their weight on his neck, he's gonna start suffocating.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with like go-go disco style. It's just in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but what I've always found crazy is you have guys like Chris Barnett, and he's gonna leave a mark one way or another for his run in the UFC. But you have guys like him who are built the way he is, and then you have guys like Sean Jordan who are built almost similar,
just like an inch taller.
Yeah, but the way that Sean Jordan fought was just outstanding. Watch this guy fight. He's a guy in the black trunks. And that's Derek Lewis that he's beating up right there. That's Derek Lewis from Houston. It's our boy.
Top 3 heavyweight in the world right now.
He went at it as soon as he was on top of that guy.
Yeah.
Did you see the kick that he landed though?
No, I missed that. I was trying to discern who.
Sean Jordan is known for his wild kicks. That dude gets his legs up in the air like no one else. And for being someone of his shape, is his impressive.
Stature. Yeah.
So when you look at a guy like Chris Barnett, it's kind of like, okay, you're gonna have to bring something cool to the table, and if you don't, like, you're gonna fizzle out because you're not. If you can't handle Ben Rothwell, you're not gonna handle anyone in the top 10.
Because Ben Rothwell is on his way out,
and he does a backflip.
Yeah.
Sean Jordan's freakishly athletic, but if you looked at him, you wouldn't expect it at all.
Yeah, it's like those viral videos of like the 300-pound dudes doing acrobat stuff. And it's like, how?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be on your feet. I'm a tiny man, and I don't dare do those type of things.
And that's what, like, watching the fight, like, Barnett was exhausted by the time he got into that second round. He's breathing heavy, throwing nothing but haymakers. So was going against somebody with a reach disadvantage. He has a reach disadvantage already against Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell walked in there, just threw a clean uppercut right through one of those hooks. Dropped him, and they got that choke, and then finished the fight. And
they might be the same weight class, but you could tell that there was a definite difference in their body types. Yeah. Like he was, who was the man who won?
Ben Rothwell. That's what Rothwell. I said that Ben Rothwell is a natural heavyweight.
Yeah.
Chris Barnett is not.
He's just in the weight class.
Yeah.
And you could see that, and God love him for going out there and trying, but if all you got on you is the ass and not the muscle behind it, man, like that just ain't gonna cut it.
There's another fighter, Pat Barry, who Sean Jordan has actually fought. Pat Barry is 5'10", and that dude is jacked. Very successful. He's a kickboxing champion, and
very goofy. He's fun.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
But he was very successful when he was in the UFC. Even being outmatched in every single one of his fights. I think a few of his fights, he had to have been seconds away from winning and just got caught. His Czech Congo fight was hard to watch.
That fight pissed me off so much.
He's knocking Czech Congo to the floor left and right, and the ref just isn't stopping it. And anytime Czech Congo got up, his legs are wobbly, and Pat Barry catches him again. He falls right back down. And Czech Congo ends up catching Pat Barry once, and the ref stops it. And Czech Congo is awesome. He's fun to watch, but just to see what Pat Barry was doing to this guy, and the ref was just like, this is okay, right?
And so, it's just, what's it called? I was surprised that the fight went on so long. He, Pat Barry, he pretty much knocked him out like 3 times in that fight right there. And
it's kind of like that one fight that we watched where the guy fell to the ground. And it was a knockout, but he just happened to get like this. This is number 3 right here.
Yeah.
And Pat Barry is about your height.
Which one is Pat Barry? The one that's
he's the one beating up on him right now.
And then he gets caught once, and understandably the ref stops it, but it's like really,
and he is out.
Yeah,
he's not fumbled to the ground, and it wakes him up and goes whoa.
Yeah.
So it was just like, It was crazy to be that excited for Pat Barry in that moment. See him drop someone like Czech Congo 3-4 times and then get knocked out. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. The ref did a decent job. I complained because it was like, it's crazy to see someone get knocked down 4 times roughly.
Yeah.
And the fight not get stopped. And then him immediately stand up and knock the other guy out right there.
It's okay to say that the ref did a shit job.
Well, he did.
The ref isn't going to cancel you or anything.
If anything,
He might not come on my podcast.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, with back to that the Barnett fight, I think what Barnett needs to really start taking his conditioning a lot more serious.
Yeah, and that's why I'm showing Pat Barry. Yeah. Pat Barry, very similar situation where he's not a natural heavyweight, but he made it work for him and his body style. And if Chris Barnett wants to be competitive at heavyweight, he's going to change something, or he's got to change something.
Has to change his diet, man. I mean, I think what it was is his conditioning, because Ben Rothwell can't keep up with the conditioning. He's not very good conditioning either.
No.
When he fought Ovince St. Preux, and even though he beat him, I mean, he was gassed as well. Ovince St. Preux is a light heavyweight fighter, so he weighs at 205. And so when you go to heavyweight, it's from 206 to 265. That's the range. You can be anywhere between that. So Ovince St. Preux was like, hey, I want to go to heavyweight. I've already fought for a long time at light heavyweight. I'm tired of cutting weight. And so, granted, I mean, whenever guys rush into that move up so quick, their conditioning isn't really the same, because they're pretty much the same size. They're just one of the guys cutting weight down to 205 and one guy's not, pretty much. And whenever they went in there and fought, like, Ovince was gassed because, you know, it's hard to keep that conditioning whenever you're not cutting that weight. You're not used to, you know, that kind of style. But I mean, Ben Rothwell was exhausted that fight, and then you saw it even in this fight. It was really more just Chris Barnett being more tired than him, but Ben Rothwell was able to defend those flurries of punches and stuff like that. And I mean, it's just, I think Chris Barnett can be really fun, but there's a lot of things he has to change. Because like he talked about Pat Barry pretty much the same height, but he was solid. He was solid as fuck. Yeah. And
if you want to go into that discussion and say, well, he was actually much more of a muscular build. Look at Roy Nelson. Tell me Roy Nelson didn't belong in the heavyweight division. That dude had a gas tank. He belonged in the heavyweight division. Big Country, you know Big Country?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much belonged in the heavyweight division. Yeah. He was very good at what he did. One of the few heavyweights who had a very strong grappling game and a very strong chin, so he could stand and fight with anybody and take you down and win the fight. So yeah, Chris Barnett's going to have to make some changes, because you look at that fight and how exhausted they were. One of the other fights in the card that was a heavyweight fight, Justin Tafa and Jared Vendera. You look at their fight and it went to decision. I wouldn't say that they weren't tired after their fight, but they weren't exhausted. No. I don't know if they could have gone another round like that, but it was a pretty solid fight. They were both fighting. Yeah. It was pretty back and forth. It was a unanimous decision.
Yeah. So it's
all three judges had it for Jared Vendera.
Yeah. When we get into that fight, like, it was Justin Tafa.
We're getting into it.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going right into. Let me go ahead and just.
This is your ticket.
So it was Justin Tafa and Jared Vendera. Jared Vendera won by unanimous decision. It was a good fight, though. I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was good. You saw 2 heavyweight fighters who just kept moving forward. You know, I mean, at one point you see Jared Vendera, he's moving his head real well. You don't really see a lot of that, and with the heavyweight division, sometimes there's a little bit of stiffness with these guys, and so. But Jared Vendera was also throwing leg kicks consistently. He was mixing it up. He was really utilizing his kickboxing, and it looked good. He did have a really nasty cut that, I mean, it looked like he was wearing another shirt, like a red shirt. He was covered. He was covered in blood.
He was cut like about right here along his temple, and it was just covering his face, and it went down across his chest and down his stomach.
I'd immediately step down. I'd be like, you win, because I am not touching that.
My favorite thing was the ref was like trying to, because it was obvious that he had blood all over his chest, but the ref couldn't see the cut. Whenever there's a cut really, really bad, you typically stop the fight if it's really that bad. But it wasn't in his
look at it.
It wasn't in his vision, so it wasn't like to where like, hey, we need to stop it. And it wasn't a big cut, so the ref is like Mark Smith is like leaning over, like pretty much like in a stretch, like lunging to his side.
He was in a power stance. Leaning as far to the right as he could.
Like if he had if he had on some fucking New Balances and a pair of like dad shorts, it'd be perfect. Like he was in a power stance. And
why does that sound familiar?
And so
like it almost happened like within the past 15 minutes.
And so he went and did that, and it was just really funny. But it was a good back and forth fight. Even going into the third round, like they had a good gas tank. That's the kind of fights, because you saw Justin Tafa, if anything, look better in the third round, like look more conditioned in the third round than he did in the first round. And so,
what do you think?
weird.
What do you think causes that? Because you would think, as far as conditioning, looking better in the third round after running around, getting tuckered out, getting hit quite a few times.
Yeah.
Why would you look more conditioned in the third round than you would in the first?
Some guys are typically slower starters. That could be a thing. Like Dustin Poirier, like he even says he's a bit of a slow starter.
And I think what it all comes down to is a mental thing.
Yeah.
It's not so much your conditioning; it's a mental thing.
Yeah.
Leon Edwards is a slow starter.
Yeah.
And he'll be the first one to tell you, yeah, those first few rounds I might be a little boring, but once I figure everything out, I'm turning it on.
Oh, okay. So it's like a conservation of energy to,
especially when you might be losing that fight. If you might be losing that fight, as a competitor, if you don't go in there and turn it on in that last round, then you're gonna lose. And Justin Tafa's been around the block. He knows the deal. He knows if I don't go in there and finish this fight, that might be it for me.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think Justin Tafa lost this fight. That's 0-2 in the UFC. Or is it 1-2?
He's 1-3 in the UFC.
1-3. Okay.
Yeah, he's coming off of a loss right now.
Do we have a clip of this?
Of this fight?
Yeah.
I'll pull it up for you.
Okay.
Let me see.
Yeah.
And so, but
see,
what's up?
And for the comment about the how to say, the agility of these bigger fighters, you usually see them just landing hit after hit on each other, just like the last fight y'all were speaking of. Wow, there he is. Yeah, you weren't kidding. He's got like a red apron on.
And that's like whenever, so that cut started off like that, and it looked a lot worse because how thick the blood was right there, and it was just like such a solid part of the head. It was like, man, that has to be a big cut. But when he saw it, I mean, it probably had to be from anywhere from a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. And it wasn't too bad, but I mean it was just a lot. It was just whenever you get cut in the head, you're gonna bleed a lot in the face. You know?
And then of course you're riled up, the adrenaline's pumping, so your blood's gonna be thinned up, but it's just crazy that previous fight we were just looking at big guys, just kind of taking it on the chin and going, and that's what I like to see is just two hulking men just knocking each other silly. But when y'all are talking about like agility coming into it and maneuvering and everything like that, especially with these bigger guys, I think that does add a bit of excitement because you wouldn't expect it. You would expect it from a smaller weight class.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just kind of that ballerina hippo from Fantasia all over again.
And so it was just I really like Justin Vendera.
I think during the fight they had said it two different ways, but the way that they said it the most was Vendera.
Did they call him the Mountain during?
No.
So I wasted my breath on that one.
Well, when they introduced him for the fight, yeah, I'm sure they did, but I'm sure they did.
I looked that up. I spent valuable time looking that up to sound smart.
Well, anyway, I think a cool matchup would be Chris Barnett and Justin Tafa.
Yeah,
they lost on the same card.
Make it happen. I mean,
Let them fight.
Especially because I think Justin Tafa will fight not into Chris Barnett's style, fight, but more of his style. It could be like, okay, let's stand up,
Ooh, there it is.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of blood. I was like, man, and you see that they were able to kind of clean it up and get, because like eventually it stops bleeding once it clots up,
Yeah.
And as soon as the third round started, I believe, they went out there and Justin Tafa took advantage of it. It's not a bad thing to do, but people do it like, okay, you have a cut and I'm losing the fight. I'm going to keep punching you in that cut to make it bigger. Because eventually they'll stop the fight.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to do my very best. If I don't just straight up bow out right there because I don't want your blood getting on me, I'm going to try to knock you out as quick as possible, because if I have more of your blood on me than I have my blood on me, I'm going to get pissed. So I would have knocked him out as quick as possible, just to stop touching him.
But yeah, for me. I really enjoyed this fight. It was not what I expected at all. Coming into this, I knew who Justin Tafa was. I didn't know who Justin Vendera now is. I didn't know who he was, but now I know who he is, and I'll definitely be watching his next fight because I just think he just showed good Christmas for being a heavyweight. He showed that he's very agile for his size, but crispness is that what?
Oh,
I thought you
Christmas.
said Christmas.
Oh fuck!
And I didn't want to be that guy in the middle of a show to go, is that a new saying?
Yeah.
But here we are.
Because he's fucking lighting people up like it's Christmas, man. Look at that shit.
Polish Christmas tree.
And so, yeah, man, it was an all around good fight. And then we saw Court McGee finally get a win. It had been a little while for him. We talked with you a little bit about him. He's a former heroin addict, one of the Ultimate Fighter.
Yes.
Yeah. And
the one who really wanted it because he had his reasons.
Yeah, and he had an all around good fight though, and he showed really good conditioning. Third round he was getting tagged up though in the third round until he got it to the ground.
He was real pumped to get that win though. He seemed real excited. So I don't know if he uses that to try to come back for another fight. I don't see Court McGee putting together a title run.
No.
I would hope that he understands that.
Yeah.
And doesn't make too big call outs anytime soon. But if he can
looked
call
well conditioned
someone out to have a very cool fight, I think that'd be good for him.
He looked like he was in great shape, like he's ready for this fight.
He's always got good cardio. He's always ready to fight.
Yeah.
Whether it takes all rounds or if he can go in there and get the finish.
I think when I think of just Court McGee, I think of him at middleweight at 185, and he fights at 170. That's just he's been at 170 for years now. But it's just when I think of Court McGee, I just think of the short, stocky guy because he was a smaller middleweight. But yeah, he just came in there, man, and he talks about after the fight. He said that his neighbor is a 70-year-old lady, and her husband just passed away. And he said that they were really nice people, and she went up to him before he left for his fight, and she was like, "Be sure to smash that guy's face in." And he was like, "I did not expect that out of a 7-year-old lady, so I had to make her proud and come and do that, man."
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was definitely good to see him coming back in the win column. It's just kind of hard with somebody who's been around for a while, who's kind of been back and forth with wins and losses, and to see where he lies next. You know.
Yeah. I don't see him being a top ranked guy anytime soon or ever really. There was that time when they asked they told Chael Sonnen like, do you see Travis Brown fighting for the title? And he laughed. He goes, "Can you imagine? Are we live? Oh no, I don't." That's kind of how I feel about Court McGee. Like, do I see him fighting not just title, but like top ranked guy or top 10 ranked guy? No.
And luckily, we're not live right now, so you can always edit this out.
I won't, though.
No, exactly.
But yeah, man, it was good to see that. So we finally saw the middleweight fight that was canceled last weekend, and we saw it happen between your buddies Jack Hermanson and Edmund Shabazian. Mm-hmm. And so I think we kind of got an idea of like who you could probably beat up now, and I think you might be able to take Edmund Shabazian, dude.
And I still don't think so.
No,
that's what I said last time, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
I thought you were full of crock bullshit, but I had to like watch that fight to be like, okay, who could he like? Who's got a better chance?
And that's why we were playing the game, baby.
And so
that's why we were playing the game.
But no, it was funny. But it was just it was a good fight though, good back and forth.
Oh, dude, if there ever was a razor thin fight, I think it's that one because the first round you had Edmund just beating up on Jack Hermanson.
Yeah.
And then the second round you had Jack Hermanson go in there and immediately take him down. Up until about like almost the exact like middle halfway point of the second round, Shabazian reversed it and started looking real good. And then the third round comes in and Jack Hermanson and he takes over that fight because Edmund Shabazian's too tired to stop the takedown anymore.
Yeah.
So,
which is what I talked about last time was like, I feel like its conditioning is gonna be an issue.
So it's crazy. Like one round definitely went to one guy, the last guy went to the other one, or the last round went to the other guy. And that second round was really split right down the middle. But I think it was a unanimous decision. All the judges saw it for Jack Hermanson.
Yeah. It was 29-27 all around. Yeah. So that means that, what's his name?
They really gave him that third round.
Yeah.
So
Jamie, can you pull up a clip?
The way that they do rounds, they do like
it's a 10-point
system. Mm. So a 10-9 is probably the most common because that means that both fighters were active. One was just a bit better and more dominant than the other. When you have a 10-8 round, one guy did all of the work, and the other guy was getting beat up on and trying to not get beat up on. A 10-7 round is almost unheard of, but a 10-7 round would be this guy, like we saw Pat Barry knocking down Czech Congo left and right.
Yeah.
If that was the whole round, that'd be a 10-7 round.
So believe it or not, there was a point in time, because remember, I told you back in like 2008, 2009, I was getting into it. I was actually weightlifting and training, and at a point, I did want to actually get into fighting.
Right.
But I don't like getting hit. And
Could have hooked up with me. I'll show you jiu-jitsu. That's how you don't get hit.
Look, man, I'd love to be jacked, but like,
You don't need to be jacked.
I
to do
get
jiu-jitsu.
every now and then I'm just like, you know what? I'm tired of doing this. I paint, and I even say I'm tired of painting. But at some point in time, I actually knew the ins and outs of this point system. And at first made no sense to me, just like NASCAR. Like NASCAR point system, I used to know it backwards and forwards because my
I didn't
dad.
know they had a point system.
They do. Like, you can come in 10th or 12th and still win. It's based on, and if anybody
Is it
who's,
over a series of races?
I know in some instances, like, there's points that go to this thing, and then there's points that go to this race. So, like, if you're part of, like, a cup that is...
I'm just going off of Mario Kart.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, it does work
Like, similar
to that.
Okay.
And I remember I was sitting there one day, and I was
know
like,
something.
if I won the race, if I had hauled ass, my team was all Gucci, but they said, well, you didn't cut in front of that car right. And it's like, I won, and 12th place got it. Yeah, but that was, and from there it kind of bled into UFC asking.
So you would like the PFL. You would like the PFL. PFL is well, this isn't how they work entirely, but they have a season instead of just fighters fighting throughout the year trying to become the champion.
Mm-hmm.
They have a season, which runs off of a point system. You win a fight, you get 3 points. If you finish the fight in the first round, you get a bonus 3 points. Second round, you get bonus 2. Third round, you get bonus 1. If you fight but you miss weight, you get minus 1 point.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. And there's been a lot going on there. It's really exciting. There was a whole issue with a guy who tapped, but it was a fake tap, and the ref didn't catch it.
No, I was joking.
I believe it's so. It's called a phantom tap. You do it when you're trying to get the other guy to stop, and you try to hide it from the ref. So he like does this little behind the guy's shoulder and then starts punching him, and he knocked the guy out. And they originally gave him the knockout win. So he started off with 6 points, and the other guy who was a legend in the sport, Fabricio Verdum, after the fight was like, "Yeah, he tapped, and I let go, and then he knocked me out." So. It's kind of ridiculous.
And they took it back, right?
And they overturned it. So now both of them have 1 point.
Get
And
fucked.
some of the top guys, there's one with 6 points and one with 5 points. So they're still a bit behind, but it's really cool. We can talk more about that another time.
Yeah, for sure. Because
cool.
that sounds interesting. It sounds like
we talk about it throughout a few of our other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at any of them with PFL in the title, that's when we're talking about it. It's really cool. It's very interesting. It's a kind of a new take. And I think what makes it really cool is if you lose a fight, it's not as like heartbreaking.
Because you could always gain those points
always come back.
It changes it from like an intensive grind of a sport into, not to diminish it or anything like that, but it turns it into a game. It's kind of fun. Trying to like, okay, I lost this one, but let's see how I can catch back up.
Yeah.
See.
It gives you kind of more motivation.
For sure.
But it's just really cool. But back to the card this past Saturday. One of the other fights was the Jan Shonen fight and Carla Esparza.
Yep.
And that one might arguably be the most exciting fight on the card. I think maybe not the most exciting, but it might be one of the coolest finishes.
I think it was the
on
best
card.
performance on the card.
I'd say one of the runners-up might be Bruno Silva with his knockout.
Forgot to mention that.
That one was really freaking good. I'm gonna see if I can pull that up.
But
Jamie's
Carla,
got the clip.
And so, but yeah, Carla Esparza, man. I mean, we talked about her. She's 5'1".
Yes, and I was saying that was the fight that I was most excited about because one, I like lady fighters, and two, just seeing how petite they were, but there was still that definite one physique difference and two the height difference.
Yeah, and so we kind of saw that from the start. Like right as soon as the fight started, like Carla Esparza, she's known as a grinder. Jan is more. She's more of a. She's kind of a striker. She's very technical, but she doesn't really like pressure enough to like. She beats people decisively, but Carla Esparza, it's very obvious what she's going there to do. She's going in there to grind you out, beat you up, tap you out, TKO you, do whatever. Mm-hmm. And as soon as the fight started, Carla went out there and just almost like speared her to the ground. Was like, nah, I'm getting that fucking takedown, and took her to the ground. Beat up on her. Was working on an armbar, I believe, right? It was an armbar, right? And
yeah, she was working on an armbar.
She was on an armbar at the end of the first, and Jan got up, and it was just like that was a strong. That was a 10. I would say that's a 10-8 round. You know, she was just
putting in most of the work.
She was putting most of the work. She was obviously winning. They stood up for a little bit in the fight, but even then, Carla Esparza was able to get around her range, get around that reach disadvantage she had. And take her back down, and eventually she took her down and just rained down an elbow. She cut her up really, really bad. I mean, like they showed in slow motion, she drops an elbow down. You see the slice, and in slow motion, just blood starts flowing out, and then she just lands another, starts laying down elbows in the crucifix position.
Yeah, for a little bit, which is when you have one arm pinned between your legs, and then the other arm pinned up with your head and your arm, so that you have complete free range.
Yeah.
To just start elbowing their head.
Yeah.
That's where it's down like that, and the arm's coming up, right?
Yes, but she had the mounted crucifix, so she's on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same idea though, but yeah. So there's the Bruno Silva knockout, and let me show you the Carla Esparza fight, which again,
I would sure hope
these two were definitely the most exciting performances of the night. I think.
Which it's also number 3 and 4 that was in the strawweight division. So the champions Rose Namajunas. That's Pat Barry's wife, actually. Oh. And have you ever seen Rose Namajunas fight? She's, for somebody who fights at 115 pounds, she has fucking power. Like really? She knocks girls out, dude. Like she knocks women out cold.
Well, and you said she's with who?
Pat Barry.
Pat Barry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, y'all are sitting there training together and festering off.
And she has her coach Trevor Whitman is, my opinion right now, is going for coach of the year right now, dude.
Yeah,
like,
he really should be.
He's won it multiple times in a row already. But so the way Trevor Whitman is, he picks the fighters he wants to train with, and he has a select few, and he'll take them into his gym, and then that's a really, really nice gym he has, and they'll just and he just makes them into better fighters. Like Kamar Usman, who's the current welterweight champion, he turned him into a striker, and that guy's a strict. He's
a wrestler. Yeah. He has a background in wrestling. Usually, when you have guys who are very, very strong, physically strong wrestlers, which most of the time they are, they fall in love with their hands, and usually it's kind of a misplaced love. But he's having success with it against phenomenal strikers because of his coach.
He just knocked out Jorge Masvidal in his last fight.
Jorge Masvidal is the guy that landed that flying knee on Ben Askren that everybody was talking about for a while.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And Jorge Masvidal has really good stand-up, and I think he's gotten a little overconfident with his stand-up in the sense to where he just like kind of toys with it's playing with your food pretty much when he knows he has better stand-up, and he got caught for doing it. But Kamar Usman has great boxing.
What for doing it?
He got knocked out for doing it. He was kind of toying at him, kind of being a little cocky at the beginning of the first. Kamar Usman was landing that right hand from the second fight started. Like when they rematched, he was landing that right hand. He was hitting him with it, and Jorge Masvidal was just kind of eating it, like kind of toying with him a little bit. You know, like that's it. You know, and then eventually, Kamar Usman just like yanks his front hand down, like Jorge Masvidal's arm down, and then just hits him with a clean right across the face, and like you see the water fly off of his head.
Wow!
And it was a beautiful knockout, but it was intense, man. But back to the Carla Esparza fight,
she sure does have a big old gash on her head.
Yeah, she actually also did want to bring up, she has a win. I brought this up last episode. She has a win over Rose Namajunas. She's the first ever women's strawweight champion. Also, Carla Esparza is, and so she defeated Rose Namajunas by rear naked choke. And since then, their careers in the UFC have gone different paths. You've seen Carla Esparza win some, lose some, win some, lose some, and then after with Carla with Rose Namajunas, she's a 2-time strawweight champion. And the way it's looking though is like I think 1 and 2 is Zhang Wei Li and 2 is Joanna Yonjay. And so
Is she still 2?
I think she is. I might be wrong. I have a feeling.
I would think so. She just her last loss was against to the champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she hasn't fought since, so I don't know if she's continued falling down the rankings or not.
Yeah.
But
so this puts her in title talks now, though, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I
would think so.
She did put on like a decision fight that she has been lately. She went out there and
an exciting fight.
Yeah, she went out there and she showed dominance. You want to see that in.
But she got a little shook there for a second when she got kicked in the face.
Oh yeah, and but yeah, I think having a win over the current champion is a big deal.
Yeah.
But
it makes for a good story too.
We've seen Rose. She's developed so much as a fighter.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a different story, I believe, when they do fight. Because I mean, who else can you give the title shot to?
I'll say this though. I think unfortunately, if Carla wants to go in and win that fight against Rose, she has to make it a boring fight. She has to push her up against the cage and grind her down. Because if you stay standing with Rose, it's not going to go your way. And Rose is good at getting back up off of her back after getting taken down. So, I don't know. I think that fight's interesting, but it definitely does open her up for title talks.
Yep. So, on to the main event. We had Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font. Rob Font won the fight by a very, very one-sided decision fight. Went all 5 rounds.
What was that?
Rob Font defeated Cody Garbrandt by decision. No one got knocked out, and I thought somebody was going to be getting knocked out.
And what did I say last time?
What?
That he was going to get it.
Well, you said knockout, though. You said he was going to get knocked out.
Did I say knockout
yeah,
specifically?
You said all of that showboating, all of that yelling and screaming or something is going to get you caught and you're going to get knocked out. That's how you get hit that way.
Correct.
And then you said, I don't know, you guys are kind of changing my mind.
But I did also say that if I was wrong, I would change my mind after.
You would play both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My boy still got it, so.
I mean, it was an okay fight. It was just if you were going for Rob Font, it was the fight that you wanted him to see him fight. But it was different than what he usually does. He usually goes in there and he's trying to like fuck you up pretty much. Like he's trying to beat you up and he's just trying to get in your face and do all that. But he fought very technical. He showed great boxing. He showed exactly what those New England guys are good at. And very technical boxing, great jabs. The entire fight was just jabbing him. He hit him with so many fucking jabs. I was like, dude, hit him with a right hand maybe once or twice.
Cody's issue in that fight. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I think Cody's issue in that fight is he never was able to beat Cody Garbrandt in that fight. And there were a few like glimpses of Cody Garbrandt in that fight. And he just couldn't turn it on.
He kept toying with him, doing that step back to the cage and kind of squatting down like he knocked out Rafael Sunsao. That one knockout we showed you in the last second.
Yes.
And so he kept kind of toying with him in the fight doing that, but you never saw Cody look good the entire fight until the 5th round.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was brought to my attention is my buddy Jake had said, hey, well, Mark Henry had said, Cody Garbrandt, like he broke himself, but he found himself in this fight camp. And Jake was like, that means that he probably overexerted himself and probably just worked way too hard than he should have. And I agree with that though. It's just one of those things where what happened for Cody to really not be himself in there. Like he had some good punches, but whenever he's backing up, like I noticed a lot, he's backing up a lot. He drops his hands every single time, and he does it well when he moves side to side. But when he's backing up, it's like,
I was literally just thinking that. Yeah, not to cut you off, but I was just observing that.
Yeah, he backs up a lot, and the thing is, while he's doing it, he almost like stutter steps over himself trying to back up. And, it was like, well, man, what are you doing that's throwing this off so much? He had some good takedowns in the fight.
Which is not usually his style.
No.
But he went in there and took him down. The first couple of rounds, anytime he wanted to, he took him down.
Yeah.
After that, he was just a bit too tired to get it done.
Yeah. And,
this was actually a really good moment. I loved the jiu-jitsu right here.
Oh, yeah.
Cody Garbrandt was defending the Kimura from the bottom. Rob Font was going for the Kimura from the bottom. And I was like, yeah, so what Cody's going to want to do is switch his leg over. And as soon as he started switching his leg over, Rob Font was ready for it. and he tried to counter, and then Cody Garbrandt countered by rolling over.
Yeah.
They stood back up. I was like, that was beautiful.
That rollover was pretty tasty.
It was nice, dude. It was
Yeah.
cool. And you don't really see high level jiu-jitsu out of two strikers like that, but
Yeah.
it was really pretty to see. But yeah, man, it's just Rob Font just had a great fight, you know, and this is definitely he's in a weird position right now, you know, with the title, because you have Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling. They need to run it back, but Aljamain Sterling's out due to a neck injury, and then you have TJ Dillashaw and Cody Sandhagen. They're supposed to fight. Whoever wins that fight gets a title shot. But so what happens with Rob Font now? You know, it's like, does he just sit around and wait for some fight? What's he exactly going to do? Because we're not going to see Aljamain Sterling back until next year.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And this is essentially this whole fight.
Just a back and forth.
Pretty back and forth, but Rob Font getting the better of it every single time.
Which is crazy because how many times have I counted now that Rob Font's on the ground? All these times it could have been over real fucking quick.
Those were mostly in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
And every time Cody Garbrandt did get it down, the second he tried to advance position, he lost it. And Rob Font would get right back up to his feet. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a lack of ground skills. You could see it when he was defending that Kimura that he's got great ground game.
Yeah.
But it might be a lack of experience on the ground, being able to hold someone down while still advancing.
Instead of just knocking them straight out while they're standing in front of you.
But I think what's it called? A lot of people were like, man, you know, I saw somebody say, well, since that Dominic fight, you've never seen Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt pretty much isn't shit after the Dominic fight, which I completely disagree with. I still think he's a talented fighter. I just think Rob Font's better than him.
You know what? That looked like an entertaining fight.
It was.
I'm gonna say because it's not that in and out. Like I said, in and out 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, I may have been wrong a little bit, but.
Yeah, 20 seconds versus 25 minutes.
Correct, but at least it was entertaining. There was a back and forth. There was, you know, as y'all were saying, there was beautiful choreography between the two of them, and a nice display of
the thing
their
about
talents.
when you call a fight back and forth is if it's a back and forth fight physically, like they're constantly both throwing punches at each other, but one guy's getting the better of the exchanges every single time, it's not back and forth. That guy's winning every single time. And that's ultimately, when it comes down to a decision fight or result, that guy won.
Yeah.
There is no back and forth. It was back and forth visually, like when you're watching it.
I was just about to say that. It's just the observation of it. They're just exchanging, as the phrase goes, back and forth.
Yeah.
Clearly, you know,
Rob Font was getting the better of it. So it's I know what you mean by back and forth, but just for the listener's sake, back and forth. It wasn't back and forth in the sense of, you know, both guys had their moments. Rob Font had his moments. Cody Garbrandt had some moments early in the fight, but after that, he just couldn't get it going. But yeah, so this is the fight the two fighters that Devin was talking about was Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan. Yan was the former champion, and this fight was for the belt. And Aljamain Sterling won, but here in a minute you'll see how he won.
Crazy legs.
And Petr Yan is something else. I don't think
Jan's black shorts.
Yes.
Sterling's ring.
I don't think
Tell me how I knew that one.
Any of these guys would really stack up to Petr Yan. He's too freaking good. Even in this fight, Sterling was just falling further and further away out of the fight. And here's how it ends. Oh, I thought it was there. It'll be coming up.
What weight class is this?
135.
Yeah, you can compete in this, Caleb.
How tall are they? They're lanky.
I want to say Aljamain is like 5'9".
Yeah, I was about to say, I think he's 5'9", and Yan is like 5'7".
I guess it's just the way they're, you know, they build their bodies or something, because they look tall.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know if it's the shorts or what, but
it's just very common, because I mean, these fighters they also cut down, and
so that fight ended with an illegal knee to the head, and because it was so intentional, it was an immediate disqualification. Typically, if it's an illegal strike, the ref will stop it, warn and take a point away.
But because
when it's intentional,
yeah.
especially to that extent, they say nope.
That was it. That was almost like point blank execution style right there.
Yeah.
So
what made him think that was even okay?
His corner was yelling for it. Actually,
Yeah.
His corner was yelling for it.
And
the reason for that is
he doesn't speak English, and so the referee told him not to throw it. Dude, he's like, watch that knee, don't throw that knee. And even he had another guy in his corner who also speaks English. He's like, don't knee. But then his guys in his corner, they said hit, but they're supposed to. He said that they were saying hit, but a lot of people are like, no, they're saying knee in Russian, and so he listened to what his natural, language is.
Yeah,
So
it was a rocky situation.
Yeah, so he listened to hit to knee in Russian, and then so he threw the knee, and he caught him with that knee.
What makes that knee illegal? But if he's standing up and I grab you by the back of the head,
he's considered a grounded opponent, which this isn't illegal in MMA. This is illegal in the UFC. And it depends on what state you're in. So, and I say state by geographic location. So when you have both knees on the ground, in some states you could be considered a grounded opponent. If you have both hands on the ground, you could be a grounded opponent. There are some states where if you have one hand on the ground, you're a grounded opponent.
Which is funny because if there's plenty of times where they're kind of like sardine canned. I don't want to
Crunched up a bit.
They're 69ing, basically,
Oh.
on the mat.
No,
and
I wouldn't have got that.
No,
yeah, there was no better way to. I'm not going to do hand gestures because listeners can't see. They're 69 on the mat.
North
That's
south,
called a north-south.
North-south.
That's the position name, north-south.
We're changing it.
No,
We're
no,
taking it back.
This is Devin the Bear After Dark.
I thought we put a disclaimer. Anyways,
No, I'm
North.
totally kidding. We say fucking shit and all that stuff on here.
I was
You can
about to say
whatever you want, dude.
numbers.
We.
I say fuck, shit, cunt, piss, all that.
All right.
And so yeah. So
Jeez.
So if they're north
If
south,
they're north-south.
and I've seen plenty of times where they're north south, and you're giving me grandma eyes over here, man. And I've seen plenty of times where they're kneeing each other in the heads in north south. Is it because when they're both down?
No. So what fights were you watching? Was it in Pride?
were they in like a wrestling?
I don't know.
Were they in like a wrestling
So-
ring?
I don't know their orientation.
Were there ropes on the ring?
I don't know, man. Like, honest to goodness, like I've just
So okay,
and
so I say that because in the Pride organization, they whenever they would fight, so you would sprawl. That would be less of north south and more of sprawling. But you could do it for north south too. But you could knee them in the head when you're on the ground in Pride. You couldn't do that in UFC.
okay.
So that's why I'm saying UFC's
It's just semantical rules.
essentially, yeah, because
Okay.
you also have one FC, which Demetrius Johnson saw this fight. He's the former flyweight champion for the UFC, went undefeated for like 7 years. He saw this happen in this fight and was like, honestly, and the way we train in my gym, that's just the rule of thumb, is always be ready. So we don't really care if you're in a position of danger. That means you can get kneed while you're a grounded opponent. It can happen. You just got to be prepared for it.
It's a dirty move.
Here's the funny thing. He went and fought a month later and got knocked out by a knee while he was grounded. And he was cool about it. He said, "No, I still stand by what I said."
Okay, I was about to say, if you end this with him being pissed off, I'm going to lose respect for that
because
man.
in ONE FC it's illegal. It's legal. In the UFC it is illegal. And he was like, "Yeah, I got caught, and what am I supposed to say? I'm very cool about it. It's no big deal."
But the thing, as dirty, like I was saying, as dirty as a move as it is, it's like that execution style. What is the absolute difference between just hammering on that dude's face with your fist or giving him one quick knee?
So
I could punch you 10 times or I could knee you once.
There's a
right?
lot of
Yeah.
fighters who have issues with a lot of different rules. The biggest one that people have issues with is the 12-6 elbow, which is only in place because they would see videos of karate guys elbowing down, straight down, that's 12-6,
Yeah.
on cinder blocks and breaking them. And so the people who made these rules said, well, we've seen people do that. We can't allow that.
Yeah.
And John McCarthy, who is a referee, he's been around since the beginning. He's the reason most of these rules exist. So if you ever want to hear anyone talk about rules, don't listen to it if it's not John McCarthy.
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, and they would not budge off of that one. So I said, okay, how about elbows like this or like this? And they said, you know what? That's fine. As long as it's not this, it's cool.
Which is
It
it's
makes no sense.
and not to delve into controversial topics, but it's almost like that conversation that we had about firearms, how you have these weird arbitrary rules that another gun is essentially breaking that rule only
Like
because
you
it has
said,
a special little piece or
but
it's
you called
rifle.
it a 5-inch piece of plastic
Yes.
turns a pistol into a rifle.
Yeah.
Even though it shoots the same.
Correct. And then having a revolver that can shoot rounds that would come out of a rifle, even though you can't have short barrel rifles, but the barrel's rifled, so it's fine.
So
that's the same thing with that elbow deal. It's
like you said, it's
you're
all semantics.
you're telling me you don't have the same swinging strength from, let's call it 3 to 9 as you do 12 to 6.
Yeah.
Horseshit.
Yeah.
And a lot of fighters have a lot of issues with a lot of rules like that. But it is what it is. But the main controversy wasn't even really the knee, unfortunately. It was Aljamain Sterling and the way he acted. He acted very woozy.
Yeah.
And was just laying on the ground like,
That right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And stood up and was just like, darn. And he was like trying his best to look upset. And then they hand him the belt, and he just puts it on. He's like, darn. And then poses with the belt after. And it's like,
Context.
You're kind of losing me here, buddy. And then after the fight, he goes to an after party with his friends, and he's holding the belt up, like having drinks. And
because that devastating knee really did jostle the old scrambled eggs. Right?
Yeah, there was a lot of shit. So he was in there, and then you could tell he was upset that he didn't want to win the belt that way. That was what was perceived as. And I think at one point when he was walking out the cage, he even threw the belt off. He was like, I didn't earn this. And then for being concussed, he still wanted to do a post-fight interview. And so, which I will get to. Let me get to that. So he says, I'm concussed. So they send him to the hospital because it was a bad fucking knee. Don't get me wrong, dude. It was a tough knee.
It looked tragic.
You're taking that he took it to the temple. I mean, and I'm not going to discredit him for taking that shot. So they send him to the hospital and they send him home. Comes back, Dana White goes and says, hey, so, he's not concussed. We're going to just play it by ear and see what happens. And Dana White didn't agree with it either. It was like, this should happen. It's for a title fight. It should have just been a no contest. They just run him back. So after that, there's pictures of Aljamain after the fight. He's with all of his team. He's with his family. He's taking pictures. He's drinking. And then he ends up saying, like, no, I was concussed. I was throwing up all night. And people were saying I was taking shots. I took one shot with my team because they were proud of me. He's like, even though I didn't feel proud to be a champion. It's like, but you took pictures with the belt. You still had an after party. You're saying you're concussed when the doctors just cleared you of a concussion protocol, saying you don't have a concussion. And then like one of the things like I talked to Zach about was like, he kept going. He went on Twitter and he was saying, I want to fight Henry Cejudo for the belt. I want to prove that I'm the real bantamweight champion. Which even in that sense was dumb. Henry Cejudo was former champion. He retired after he had one defense. Yeah. And
against Dominic Cruz.
Against Dominic Cruz, a guy who his last fight.
Former champion.
Yeah, who got beat up by Cody Garbrandt, who just fought. And
he's the guy that Cody Garbrandt did the robot to.
Yeah.
And so he said he wants to fight him, and then after that he says he's trolling, which I've spoke on my opinion before on here. And it's just like, if you're trolling, you don't tell people you're trolling, you just do it. And which you probably know a little bit about that, like how those rules go. And so
do I look like the type that trolls online?
Not trolls, but you probably know the how it goes with that.
Because I absolutely am.
Okay, I didn't want to be a dick and insinuate that. I feel like I already did though. But like, if you're gonna say I'm fucking with somebody, you're not gonna tell you, oh no, I'm just fucking with them. I'm just fucking with them. No, you're just gonna keep doing it and doing it because you're getting a rise out of them. And so now, we have a paper champion. And, of course, on top of that, Aljamain has a neck injury now. So he'll be out for 9 months. So that belt won't be defended. And so that's why I talked about earlier. There's TJ Dillashaw and Cody Sandhagen who wins that fight next month. They're going to be fighting for whoever wins that fight is the number one contender for that title fight between these guys who won't be running it back till probably fucking next year,
Yeah.
like next spring.
I
Ideally.
say have Rob Font fight the winner of that because you
Yeah.
have TJ Dillashaw, who hasn't fought in how long?
Yeah.
Corey Sandhagen, who has earned it.
I keep saying Cody. That's why I knew I was saying his fucking name wrong.
Yeah, it's okay.
So
You have Corey Sandhagen, who's earned it. TJ Dillashaw, who popped for steroids, and he's just now coming back. He's another former champion. So it's the whole like.
How long do you have to wait for steroids?
to leave your system.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how much you get, how long you get suspended for too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he was suspended, so he's coming back. This is his first fight coming back, and he's fighting Corey Sandhagen, who's been tearing everybody up.
Yeah.
He knocked out Frankie Edgar with a flying knee in 40 seconds?
30. Yeah.
30 seconds,
Yeah.
and Frankie Edgar was out cold,
Stiffed
which
out, dude.
no one does that to Frankie Edgar.
Was he mannequin?
What's that?
Was
yeah.
he
yeah.
Yes.
It was bad.
I'll pull it
Starched.
up.
It was like that little asshole kid that pushes down the mannequin at the fucking Coles.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly how he felt.
I love.
Like ankle roll and everything.
I love when that happens.
And it was dirty,
you're
man.
You're just reaching. Just reaching.
And it was bad, bro. It was a really tough knockout. And but Corey Sandhagen, I mean, before they had a wheel kick knockout on Marlon Moraes.
Yeah,
But,
like I said, he's earned it. I would say that, I would say that TJ Dillashaw hasn't earned it.
No, I don't think he has.
Rob Font has earned
Yeah.
at least a number one title or a number one
Yeah. I
contender
agree.
spot.
I agree 100%. It should be Font versus Sandhagen for the number one contendership.
but
Because
they've already set up this Dillashaw Sandhagen fight, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It
happens.
winner of that fight's Font, though. I
'Cause-
don't think they should.
Yeah, it's a stiff
Yeah.
man.
It's just like with the Leon Edwards Nate Diaz situation.
Yeah.
If Nate Diaz wins, why on earth would he deserve a title shot other than that fact that he beat Leon Edwards? It's not enough to convince me. What do I matter though? But
You are
Rob-
YouTube's number one authority on mixed martial arts.
so they say.
So they say.
And then Rob Font, who also has earned it because he's been beating people left and right. He just beat Cody Garbrandt,
Yeah.
the former champion.
Look what he
So
did to
him
him.
and Sandhagen earn it. TJ Dillashaw hasn't earned it.
No,
doesn't
'cause-
deserve it. But if he wins this fight, he gets it. I don't agree with that.
Well, and look who. Okay, like I get where the whole idea of him fighting for the number one contendership comes from.
Yeah.
He was a champion, but then again, look at where the bantamweight division was. All those guys that were at the top with him, they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Look who he beat to fight for the title the first time when he fought Hidden Brow, Rafael Sunsao. Sunsao hasn't won a fight in a fucking minute.
Yeah.
And who was the last beat? I mean, that's a guy that a lot of people are saying he needs to retire. He needs to call it quits.
Well, they've been telling him to retire for a long
Yeah.
time now, and he just
I mean, he's closer to 40.
he gets
than
those
anything.
wins, and you're like, oh, maybe he doesn't need to retire, and then he gets knocked out, and you're like, oh no, no.
Yeah,
no,
then he
no,
gets
you
fucking
Could be a
face
case of
planted.
the trolling.
Yeah.
You know? They're telling me to stop. I don't think I'm gonna.
And so, yeah, man, it's weird. The whole landscape of the bantamweight division has changed. So I don't really think TJ should be there yet. I think he should have a couple more fights to prove it. Because also, you got caught cheating. If you get caught cheating, you shouldn't be getting, hey man, here's this win this fight and you can fight for the title next. It's like
Yeah.
no, that's not how
It,
that works.
it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It feels almost like you should have to take a couple steps
And
back.
people's argument will be, well, he was a dominant champion. It's like, yeah, but he was on steroids.
Yeah.
Do you think that was why he was a dominant champion? He knocked out Cody Garbrandt twice. Granted, I don't think that was the steroids that why he knocked him out. I think he just outfought Cody Garbrandt.
But then it becomes that possible doubt that
Yeah.
sits in the back of your head. It's
Exactly.
it's like that kid when you're playing video games and they say out of nowhere, a conversation from dinner, you just say it out of nowhere and it's like, well, now I definitely do think you're cheating. That kid goes, well, I'm not screen watching, so don't worry about it. It's like, I wasn't thinking you were, but now I am. It makes you stop,
Yeah.
take pause,
I
and
thought
go.
you just had a jetpack mod on.
Yeah. But you have to stop and take pause and think like, maybe it was just him getting the best, but at the same time, it still could have very well been
Yeah.
the roids.
Yeah. I mean, somebody who is on roids I don't question is like John Jones. Like,
That dude's too gifted to pretend like it was the steroids that got
Yeah.
him those wins.
yeah.
But yeah, with Dillashaw and Garbrandt, I think I agree with you on that he is just a more complete striker than Cody Garbrandt
Yeah.
ever was. he's a better kickboxer, and that's what won him those fights.
Because like look what he rocked him with a head kick.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like I think if it comes down to pure boxing, I think Cody Garbrandt has the better boxing.
He's got the better boxing, but you throw in kicks.
Yeah. The guy that constantly
TJ
drops his hands.
he's just more versatile when it comes to striking. His striking is more dynamic than Cody's ever will be because Cody relies so heavily on his hands.
One of the things I liked of that made me laugh was when I was watching the fights last night with Jake was he was like, damn, not only does he look like Mike Perry, he fights like Mike Perry. And I was like, that's the perfect way to put that. Mike Perry is a character.
The guy from Friends?
No. I think you're thinking of Matt Perry.
Oh, okay.
What's it called? So
that would have been a whole lot interesting.
And so Mike Perry's a character, but we've talked about it before. But I mean, you might not know who he is, but he's just he's funny, man. He's just wild. But his last few fights, he's just standing there, like especially his last fight against Mike Gonzalez.
He has got the face of a tough man. That's for
he went, sure. What's it called? He went out there and he just got jabbed nonstop and just walked forward into punches. And it's like that's what Cody Garbrandt did. And it's like I don't know what's going on right there, but I mean the only time he looked like Cody that whole fight was the 5th round because his coaches finally said, "Hey, dude, start throwing fucking hooks like." You know, 3s and 4s, you know, left hook, right hook, you're landing with those. And he was landing them nonstop that whole round. But it's like you kind of waited so long to go ahead and do that you have to knock this guy out. Yeah, this is Mike Perry.
That's Mike Perry.
Yeah, Daniel Rodriguez, by the way.
Daniel Rodriguez, okay. I was like looking at you and you were like typing. I was like, please correct me because I can't remember his first name.
I was like, I know that's not right. Mike Gonzalez. I was like, there's no one.
Yeah.
So I remember D-Rod. Yeah, Mike Perry is something else. Cody Garbrandt's kind of fallen into that same category, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's a mean hook he's got.
He's been a Muay Thai champion when he was 13, 14.
Yeah. He was a teenager.
This dude's striking is awesome, but it's all a mental thing with him.
Yeah.
He can't fix the issues in his own life, and that's not a personal attack. It's just what we see.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff going on, and he can't seem to differentiate issues from the cage in his professional career. Yeah. So he kind of it definitely affects his fighting style.
I think the biggest issue in his life right there is his haircut. That was.
Oh, you think that's the weirdest haircut he's had? He ends up with this very weird bowl cut at some point.
No, I saw it earlier too.
You did?
He had like a third grader.
Yeah.
Who wants to grow their hair out, and that's what their mom considers growing your hair out.
And so, but yeah, man, like Cody, like, because there's a lot when he had lost 3 straight knockout losses coming in. Well, not coming into this fight, but beforehand, he had 3 straight knockout losses. Then he knocked out Rafael Sunsao, and they're like, man, Cody Garbrandt, being patient is a dangerous thing. But then you see this fight, it's like, okay, you're being too patient. Like something's going on. You gotta at least like still fall into what got you the belt, you know. And
this was Mike Perry's debut in the UFC.
And so I also think that it's like anybody that questioned his chin at all, because there are a lot of people. There's a lot of talks when he knocked out 3 times. There's a lot of talks that he doesn't have a chin anymore. Yeah. I think this proved that he still has a chin. He just got caught just right.
Yeah.
And then there was also.
Can you run that back real quick?
And so there's also just that whole thing that he. I think Rafon's just a better fighter. I think Cody Garbrandt's very good. But, of course, his best performance was against Dominic Cruz. But, I mean, people act like he's just a shell of himself.
I don't care what anyone says. He will be immortalized by his performance against Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
Because no one has been able to do something like that to Dominic Cruz. Yeah. I understand that Henry Cejudo finished Dominic Cruz, but no one has been able to beat Dominic Cruz at his own game and taunt him while doing it. And that was something else.
It was just it was amazing, dude, watching that. It was just, I didn't expect it. It was just, you saw him really just, that was his swan song right there, you know. Yeah. It's just, it really was. And he did phenomenal in that fight. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend to go watch it. Because there's times he could have finished it, but I think he wanted to prove a point to Dominic too. Was just like, hey, like I'm rocking your shit, and I mean I'm the reason why this fight's going on 25 minutes, not you, you know. So we'll see. But other news though, the Irish Dragon, Paul Felder. Yep, decided to officially retire
in the middle of the event.
Yep.
We got to do a little speech.
37. So
is that old in this sport?
Yeah. But also, though, he looks really, really good for 37. Like, if I would have told you he was 37, you wouldn't have known he was 37.
Yeah, some people call it the right and wrong side of 30, which is if you're 29, you're on the right side of 30 in this sport. Once you're after 30, you're kind of out of your prime.
Yeah.
Just because of the toll it takes on your body. But Paul Felder made it look easy.
Kind of like porn.
All right. Paul Felder made it look easy.
Who's Rob Felder, man?
Rob Font?
I'm just kidding. But,
and his retirement, I guess, kind of, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with it at all. He retired in the top 10, and that's something that a lot of people kind of don't get to see themselves do. They fight too long and end up seeing themselves falling out of the top 10. But this guy's got a degree in screenwriting and acting, and he wants to be TV. He was in an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Who's this?
Paul Felder.
No, but which one?
the black shorts.
The one
Black
winning.
Shorts. Oh, okay. Just checking.
But yeah, so now he's got a job as a broadcaster, and he's making about as much, or
He's making, from what was found, he's making 48,000 a broadcast, and usually he makes going into the Dan Hooker fight, he made 50,000 that fight,
and that's not including sponsors.
Yeah.
But what you make up for that money with is getting time to see your family.
Yeah.
Getting time to be relaxed at home, which you don't get to do when you're trying to be a heavily competitive fighter. Which he is very competitive. He was making a title run basically before he retired. He did have a loss, but it was on a short notice.
He was looking really good though,
and he looked real good in it. So
I mean, this dude has fought with a broken arm. When he broke his arm when he fought Mike Perry, he went a weight class up to fight Mike Perry, which he usually fights at 155. He went up to 170, and he walks around 170. So it was more natural weight going against a guy like Mike Perry who struggles to make 170, to where the next day, Paul Felder's probably 175, and you're looking at Mike Perry who's probably 190, and so he goes in there, he breaks his arm, then he fights James Vick. He punctured his lung in that fight and still goes on to win that fight. Yeah. And
he got his lung punctured?
He punctured his lung. And then he whenever he fought Dan Hooker, he had small fractures in his orbitals. He also had some I can't pronounce it, but he had an issue with his kidneys to where the doctors were very worried about it, because it kind of starts to contaminate your blood. And stuff. He had some issues with his legs because he said his feet swell up a lot after a fight because he's just kicking so much. And he didn't even talk about too. He even said he was developing like an eating disorder while in between fights, because you're able to eat these good foods whenever you're not having to train. And whenever you're training, you kind
of lose yourself in that indulgence.
He said you eat like 24 donuts just in one sitting and stuff. Like he said he would have like 6. Dude,
I was about to say that's a regular Sunday for me.
So shit, dude, I can't even put down 3 donuts. And so he just talks about that, and he just said, I'd rather retire too early than too late. And if you want to check it out, I definitely recommend watching his interview. He's a very well-spoken guy.
Yeah.
Crazy to me that this guy has a bachelor's degree in theater arts. I mean, when you
you wouldn't think that it would come with
what he does,
the profession.
Yeah. He talks about that he gets to see his wife and his daughter more. He gets to see his dog more. And I think he said that one of the things that opened up to him was whenever he was, his mom had kind of brought it up to him because he had. That was in his debut. That was his debut.
That was his debut, and it was as exciting as they come.
That man's face.
Look at that fucking rat tail, dude. Hell yeah.
That man's face when he got knocked out. Please show it.
And so he also talks about.
We're talking about the spinning back fist.
Oh yeah.
On Danny Castillo.
Dude, it is just.
And his face freezes up in the greatest way possible.
It's just I remember watching this and I was like, who is this guy, man? And so he just he said that even like before he already thought about retiring because and he talked about like there's a couple things his mom brought up that he would have to go hit pads for 5 rounds at least once a week. And so he said if he did, he'd be in a really bad mood. And he's like, guys, I haven't been in an MMA gym in like 3 months. Like honestly, and I'm just hanging out. Like I'm not mentally there anymore. It's just I don't really want to do this. And he also talked about he was ranked number 9 in the UFC rankings, and they had guys they wanted him to fight. They wanted to fight like Islam Makhachev, who's Khabib's cousin. You've heard of Khabib before, right? Or no?
Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's the guy that choked out Conor McGregor.
Okay. Yeah.
They wanted him to fight Khabib's cousin. They wanted him to fight Garbrandt, Gregor Gillespie, they wanted him to fight Diego Ferreira.
And let's be real, Paul Felder would fight any of them.
Yeah, he would. And so
at any moment.
And he just said that they didn't excite him. He's like, I don't feel like fighting guys below me. And then he said, he's like, and the guys above me, I mean, they're all killers. He's like, I feel like I could beat them. And he's like, I think on any night that's my night, I could definitely beat those people. But he just said, man, it was just injuries and all that, time away from the family. It was just best. But it sucks to see him go, though. I always want to see him at least have the title fight once. He's the last guy to beat Charles Oliveira. When asked about that, he even said, dude, like, look at that fight and look at Charles Oliveira now.
And how long ago it was.
Yeah.
And really, for being somebody who's so mentally out of it, like you're saying, and kind of not feeling the benefits of it anymore.
Yeah.
To see that last fight, he was fighting like he was, midway through working his way up to a title or something.
Yeah.
He
really was.
He didn't have that kind of senioritis look to him.
No.
Yeah.
And in this sport, kind of something a little bit what you were saying is, when your mind is halfway out, you might as well just step out because it's not something that you can halfway do.
It's almost like any job, really, right?
Yeah.
But your job isn't going to hit you in the face,
Yeah,
and your mind not being there is going
to cause you to have your mind knocked out of your consciousness.
So I can appreciate that, and then the fact that was basically finished off showing his debut fight. Yeah. So it was kind of nice to see that he was doing that, debut, doing the same shit, if not, harder on his last fight.
And he had a lot to prove, no matter who he fought in the UFC, because a lot of guys were like, oh, he's just a commentator. He turns down fights and this and that. And when he fought Dan Hooker, he finally, like he said, he begged the UFC to finally let him fight a main event. They finally let him. And it's one of the best fights I've ever seen. Those guys went out there and they beat the piss out of each other, dude.
Yeah.
They both had to go to the hospital immediately after that fight. And like he fought Dan Hooker in New Zealand, where Dan Hooker is from. Mm-hmm. And in New Zealand, they follow they have a strong backing over there. They support their guys. And he fought Dan Hooker, and he walked in the booth and he left the cheers. And they respected him. They were cheering him. They were. It was really good to see that they welcomed him. And he fought his ass off, and they were like, "Nah, man, like that's the fucking guy right there. He's got it." And so, but I think it's just best for him. And when he talks about, retiring too early than too late, I think that's a testament to what we're seeing now. There's a lot of guys that are getting beat up. He brought up Donald Cerrone. He even said Donald Cerrone should have retired 5 fights ago. He has nothing else to prove, And now you're seeing Donald Cerrone get stopped in fucking minutes because he's just going out there. He's just stiff as a board, and he's getting beat up by these younger guys. Alex Morano beat the shit out of Donald Cerrone. It's not a knock on him. I like Donald Cerrone a lot. I've always been a fan of him since the WEC, but there's just something there where it's like, man, you're not really able to keep up with these guys so much.
Recent fighters we've seen get cut is Alistair Overeem and Junior Dos Santos.
Jacare Souza just got cut.
Both of these guys just kept losing.
Not even a week after he got his arm broke.
Yeah. Poor guy.
So
this guy a bone. Get it? He had his bone broken.
That's in poor taste.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, man.
Style.
And so,
right.
Other news that I was excited about: Diego Sanchez has ended his professional relationship with Joshua Fabio. Yeah. So now it's just a personal one. But
let me show you the wise teachings of Josh Fabia, who has been the head coach of Diego Sanchez for a while now. Definitely too long. But Diego Sanchez has finally dropped this guy from hopefully his life. This guy is just a strange person. He's got this whole thing called self-awareness. And essentially what he goes around doing is claiming that he is a head coach for Diego Sanchez and he demands respect. And
I think I know this. He looks nothing. He's like a string bean, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But I mean, there are several fighters who are string beans, but they command respect because they go in there and fight. This guy's never fought in his life. It's him pushing the punching bag around and then walking in circles around it and doing whatever it is he's doing.
Yep.
And let me find the most recent training footage between him and Diego Sanchez.
You need some late night ASMR. Here you go, man. This is what you gotta Just put your phone face down so the light doesn't interrupt it. But
Oh, thank God.
yeah, I'm actually gonna,
Is he?
But yeah, so Diego Sanchez, this is what he's kind of a loopy guy too, but he ended up dropping this guy from his coaching team. I hope from his whole personal life in general altogether as well, because he's not having success with this guy around.
He's not having what?
Success.
Okay.
I can't imagine. And now that he's been cut from the UFC, he's got nothing to lose. So get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
And start a new chapter.
Yep. Just start all the way back over. Was that you bringing in a forceful ad reel? Or
yeah, that was an accident.
You were gonna force Raid Shadow Legends to give us money.
Please pay for my fucking groceries.
We are not sponsored.
Yet. They sponsor fucking everybody, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No thanks.
Exactly. We need Raycon. We need NordVPN. We need all of them.
I'm really happy they called Caleb today.
I'm just saying. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yo, fucking Chuck Norris water,
Oh,
dude. That shit's made in Texas. Did
Chuck
you know
Norris
that?
water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris, if you hear this,
Yeah.
I will drink specifically that water.
Artesian
I'll
water.
bathe in
Artesian.
it.
Is that how the fuck is that pronounced?
That's how you say it. You did it right.
Artesian?
Well, you said it right originally. Artesian.
Artesian.
Artsane?
So, I misspelled Steven Seagal's name in the last video title on purpose.
Who gives a fuck?
Even if it was on
Take that, buddy.
If it was on accident, it's perfectly fine. Nobody knows. I don't even think he knows how to spell his name.
I didn't. Well, it was on accident, but I didn't feel like looking up how to spell it.
If my mom, if I was listening to this in my room and my mom walked by, she'd have some questions for me in the morning.
That's the
Put some headphones on. Try to be self-aware, Mom. Get out of here.
From the Josh Fabia.
Yeah, let's clarify that real quick before anybody.
But if you close your eyes, it could be.
So I'm saying,
anything.
man, you want some late night ASMR? There you go, dude. That's your after dark special right there. So, 40-year-old man teaches other 40-year-old men how to be self-aware
by punching him in the face while he's hanging upside
and
down,
kicking him in the ribs.
What are you doing, life coach? You know, so yeah.
I can do that, and I'll charge less. I promise. If anybody wants to hang upside down, just get
punch and kick them.
I'll
we
punch
can
and
get you
kick
some
them.
ads going. We can get you on like back pages or some shit.
Correct.
Well, actually, they should. That.
You'll be standing
And
there
then-
like this,
and then
and people are like, "Well, what does this fella do?"
Fuck that. We're just gonna get a strictly just a. We're gonna have him cross arm, but it's just gonna have just like his nose down though, so they can just see the handlebar.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'll say, "Are you aware?
If you,
Are you sure?" And then you'll hear like a bird. And
Well-
then I just start beating the shit out of
are
them.
you gonna have him let them have a safe word or no?
Think of a safe word. Don't tell me. When I guess it, I'll let you go. That's how you do it. That's becoming self-aware. You were the safe word all along.
All right, and on that note, we're gonna come to a close here. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
About being a self-aware coach.
That's not real.
Where's my
What would
scissors?
your before we go? One, we're missing things. You forgot to say Auf Wiedersehen to your
To our German listener
Mhm.
/ listeners or vielen Dank.
Exactly. Wie geht es dir?
Yeah, if anybody wants
You
to
want to show him love?
Hmm?
You want to show him love?
I show love every day, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Appreciate it.
And there was just one more thing because we're talking about safe words. What
Why
would
are you
your
looking
safe
at me
word
like
be
that?
if you're hanging upside down, having that man smack you around?
I don't know. I'm a no nonsense guy.
You're looking at me. You want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
I'm not dumb enough to fucking be put in that position.
Good answer.
Yeah.
But also very long safe word.
Yeah. God damn it.
All right, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you to Caleb for coming on.
Hell yeah.
This is a solid 2-parter with him. We're really happy he did. It's been great. If you really want to check out Caleb, is there any way where anybody can go check you out, follow you, get your sense of humor going in their life?
You set me up for a Yo Mama joke, but I'll skip out. I mean, you can find me on Instagram. Don't post there, but you can check out my old stuff. It's Caleb18Stevens. You can find me on TikTok, Caleb Fitzgerald Stevens. Enjoy that heap of trash. And hopefully just find me here every blue moon or so.
Yeah, I would like to have him on every so often just to kind of give y'all someone else to listen to so you don't get sick of hearing us too often.
Well, I get tired of us.
Nah, but I get tired of you.
I'm about 5 minutes into this show, and I'm sick of myself. That's for sure.
Minutes?
About 5 minutes. But hey, you should remind the listeners that they need to like and subscribe, comment, because that makes it pop up and all that shit,
Fuck you,
and
Caleb.
share it. I as soon as y'all uploaded the last episode, I shared it to like 15 fucking people.
Yeah.
People I don't
appreciate
even
that.
talk to.
Thank you.
But it's real important that people share.
Share, like, and subscribe. Please leave a comment.
50K giveaway.
Oh, and do not forget we are also on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
Google Podcasts. There's some other ones.
Quit listening to Joe Rogan and start listening to us.
Who?
Schmogan.
Are you big leaguing Joe Rogan right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Joe Rogan.
Because we're in the biggest league. A league of our own. All right, everybody. Y'all take care.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.